can't reach my tea. There we go. Okay, firstly, I have a cold, so that is why I sound like this. Secondly, for those of you that follow my blog, you will know what this video is about. You will get the general gist, but even so, I feel like this is an important video to make. I started my YouTube channel on the 14th of March 2011. I was 18 years old. I'm 27 in a couple weeks, so we're not far off a decade. And who I was when I was 18 is just a completely different person from who I am now, which feels like a very obvious thing to say. If you look back 10 years ago, 9 years ago, even like 5 years ago, maybe even 3 years ago, you are just a totally different person to who you were then. We're constantly learning, we're constantly evolving, whether you're 18 or 80, life never stays the same for very long. However, with the world of YouTube or social media or the internet, there could be someone today watching a video of me at 18 years old and assuming that's who I am now. They will be watching an outdated version of me. But not only that, the people who have watched me grow up on YouTube, there also seems to be this strange confusion about change because people want you to stay the same. No one really likes change. We are predominantly creatures of habit. I know from first-hand experience through conversations with people who have been watching me for years or people who had been watching me for years and no longer watch me. There are lots of people out there who would have preferred me to stay the Disney princess version of me who is squeaky clean and PG and family friendly, and that's just not who I am anymore. I don't even really think it was 100% me back then anyway. But that's just one part of the internet that I want to talk about. The main reason that I'm making this video is to do with boundaries. When I was 18, my YouTube channel wasn't that big, and so the boundaries that I set were much closer to home than they should have been. And the only way I can think to explain this is by putting it into like physical context. My boundaries were, say, here's my front door and there's a path and then there's a gate, a front gate, and you know, a fence or some bushes, some hedges. That was my boundary, and that was the singular, only sole boundary that I had, because there weren't that many people watching, and out of those people watching, there wasn't really anyone saying anything negative, and if there were, the noise of all the positive people just drowned them out. So say there are 100 people stood at my boundary, at my gate. They were very, very close, and I knew that it was a stupid idea to let them into my house, because you just don't do that. You don't let strangers into your house, you don't take sweets from strangers, you don't get into strangers' cars, stranger danger. I wasn't giving my phone number out to people, I wasn't going for coffee with people that I didn't know. But then obviously over time, my YouTube channel and my career grew, and the amount of people following me now was in the thousands, the hundreds of thousands. But my boundaries didn't change. My boundaries remained exactly the same. So now I had like 200,000 people stood at my front gate, and they're overwhelmingly close. But I felt like I couldn't change them. I couldn't move my boundaries any further away because I didn't want to upset the people who were positive, who were lovely, who did understand and respect those boundaries. I was scared of disappointing people, and I was stupid and naive and thought that, you know, this is manageable, you know, things aren't going to get any bigger or any worse. The negativity that was being hurled over the boundary and was hitting me and my house, and the way that that was making me feel, was worth not disappointing the majority. So I just kept all my boundaries in exactly the same place. But then of course things started to grow and grow and grow and grow, and which I'm grateful for. You know, it's amazing that I've had the success that I've had and that my career took off in the way that it did. But usually you're meant to adapt. Usually you're meant to change certain things about your life and your lifestyle and the way that you cope with things and the way that you deal with things accordingly, based on what's going on in your life. And I just didn't, because I was scared of upsetting people, of disappointing people, of people disliking me, of people hating me. I was scared of being disliked, especially by the people who had always been kind and loving, because I didn't want to upset them, because I felt like they didn't deserve to be disappointed or upset. And so even after being barraged with negative comments, I never disabled the comments, and I never put any filter words into YouTube or Instagram or Twitter to try and save myself some unhappiness and some discomfort. I never closed my inboxes. I just let people message me all the time, every day, anonymously if they wanted to. And not only would I let them message me by keeping my inboxes open, I would read them. And I made promises back in the early days of my YouTube channel, like replying to all of the mail that came through, because at the time I was getting like 30 to 50 pieces of mail a month. And I wasn't in a show, so I had all the time in the world, and it was easy. That was an easy promise to keep. But then as things got out of control and suddenly hundreds of letters came through every month, instead of just saying, guys, situations have changed and I can no longer cope with this amount of mail, because now I'm also in a full-time job, and so I can't do this, it's physically, humanly impossible. And instead of just saying that and hoping that people would understand, I didn't want to disappoint people, so I just continued saying, yeah, no, I'm gonna reply. It might take me a while, And it's got to a point where 5 years later, 6 years after someone sent me a letter, I still haven't replied, because I don't have the time in my life anymore to sit down and reply to 600 letters, and that's no exaggeration. And it sounds like a complaint. It's not a complaint at all. I appreciate every single piece of mail that's come my way, and everyone's always so sweet and so loving. It's about my own issue with setting boundaries and potentially disappointing people by saying that I'm not capable of catering to every individual's singular needs. A couple of months ago I reached breaking point because something happened that I'm not going to talk about on this channel, but something happened a couple months ago that really shook me up. The police had to be notified, I had to have an interview with the police. It was scary, it wasn't fun, and I reached breaking point. And for someone who talks about mental health a lot, I had never reached out myself for professional help until this point, which I'm ashamed to say. But I've been in counselling for the last couple months, which has just been amazing in so many ways. Basically, my issue is boundaries, because as the years have gone on, that very close, very rickety boundary that I had set up just isn't good enough anymore, and I've just been letting too many people in and letting too many of the wrong people get to me. And instead of pushing back and building my boundaries again and building them up stronger, I just went, you know what, just come in, just walk all over me. I don't have the energy anymore. Back in the day when someone disagreed with me, instead of evaluating the situation and thinking, do they disagree with me because I've done something wrong, in which case I need to own up and apologise, or do they disagree with me because we're just two different people who conduct our lives in very different ways? Instead of evaluating the situation on a case-by-case basis like that, instantly I'd go, oh my god, I've done something wrong, what's wrong with me, it needs to be changed. And bit by bit I just changed myself, and so I became this Frankenstein's monster built by my audience. I know I'm a good person with good intentions who's never going to purposefully do something controversial or to purposefully upset people. That's just not who I am. Sometimes something will happen where I've done something wrong, in which case I will hold up my hands and say I'm sorry. I'm not above that. But it got to a point where I was conducting my life in a really warped way, because all I thought about before I did anything was, what is my audience going to think of this? How can I anticipate what's going to be said before I do this? Instead of just being myself and doing the things that I wanted to do that I thought were right. And I am done with that. I'm so over that now. So I deleted my Tumblr because I wasn't really using it anymore anyway, and when I went to close it and just had one last look in the inbox, it was horrendous. So I just closed that, deleted that. That Tumblr is no longer there. I closed all of my inboxes on my social media. Any way that people could privately message me, I've just gotten rid of. And I'm going through sort of like a life transition at the moment. That sounds very dramatic. Basically, I'm just moving into a new house. But a big life event like that, moving, gives me the chance to set up new boundaries. So I've said it before, I will say it again just to reiterate, I'm not going to be doing a house tour because my house is for me and Oliver and my family and the people that I choose to let through its front door, not 600,000 strangers on the internet. So, you know, you'll probably see my office because I'm still gonna make videos and I'm still gonna, you know, be creative in the ways that I wanna be creative. So if you see my office, if you see parts of my house in the backgrounds of pictures, I don't care about that, that's fine. But I'm not gonna be going out of my way to be like, hey everyone, here's my house, come in, make yourselves at home. I got a massive tattoo the other day and I was lying there, it took 3 hours to have done, and I was lying there and I was like, I just don't want to show this to people because I know there's going to be a bunch of people who don't like it and are going to tell me they don't like it, or do like it but don't like me and so are going to tell me they don't like it. And also for the people that do like it, I don't need to hear that they like it because I like it and that's all that matters. I don't need 500,000 people to tell me that they like a tattoo that's already on my body. I've got it now, you can't change that. So I took like massive comfort and happiness in not showing everyone because it's mine, it's personal, it's private. I don't want to show everyone, so I don't have to show everyone. I debated about making this video because does it go against everything I'm saying? Am I letting people in by making this video? But ultimately, YouTube still feels like home. It still feels like a safe space for me to be creative and have a connection with the people that I want to have a connection with as and when I choose to. And this is where it all began. So it kind of felt wrong not to say anything on this channel. So yeah, the takeaway points from this video are, in summary, I am a 27-year-old woman, so expect me to behave like a 27-year-old woman, almost 27. And I have reinstated a lot of my boundaries. So whilst I'm still here and I'm still around and I'm still gonna be making videos and being creative, I'm gonna be doing it on my terms. And I'm gonna be doing what I think is right for me. And I'm not gonna be letting my audience, especially the negative portion of my audience, dictate my life anymore. I shouldn't have done that in the first place. But I did, and I've learned. I think that's everything. And scene.